Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Beruchim Habayim to everybody. Today, Wednesday, the second day of Iyar 5781, 17th day of the Omer, the 14th of April 2021. Today is also Yom HaZikaron. Yom HaZikaron, as we know, is the day determined in order to remember the fallen soldiers from the foundation of the State of Israel, and even before that time in 1948, as well as later on added the citizens that were killed in Israel regretfully due to the act of terrorism that our Holy Land has been plagued for many, many years. As of today, based on the research made earlier, the number that we are remembering today, it's 23,928 people that regretfully died defending the land of Israel, or for the mere fact that they were Yehudim living the land of Israel. To the point that it says in a responsa of Hacham Rabbi Yosef that including in these numbers and prayers that we have made in the synagogues today, was including as well the Gentiles, Christian Jews, soldiers that defended the land of Israel and automatically defending of Am Israel. So in their memory today, we are devoting the class of today, Be'ezat Hashem. And before we go into the actual lesson of the day of the Omer, I'd like to share with the Kahal Kadosh an interesting writing from Hacham Obadiah Yosef dating back to 1976. And this is sourced from the Halacha Yomit, the daily Halacha, based on the rulings of Hacham Obadiah Yosef. And it says as follows. This is the summary of a memorial service, a memorial service that was held for 7 young men killed in Kikar Sion in Yerushalayim by terrorism. Hacham Obadiah Yosef spoke very beautifully and very eloquently on this particular topic. So Be'ezat Hashem will share some of the key statements that the great Hacham Alav Shalom gave. Additionally, today, interesting enough, today is the yahrzeit also of Hacham Yaakov Yosef, the son of Hacham Obadiah Yosef, the oldest son, an eminence and a huge Talmid Hacham that regretfully passed away during his father's lifetime, and today, the 2nd of Iyar, is actually his yahrzeit. So I'd like to read it better and perhaps skip some lines, so this way we can maximize the time together in this very meaningful and memorial day of Yom HaZikaron. I'll encourage the Kahal to do something extra today. First of all, read the Tehillim or read the Mishnah in their memory, light a candle, give some charity, etc. So it says, Hacham Obadiah Yosef starts. Our Hachamim teach us that the death of young men is as terrible as the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. Literally, Bet HaMikdash is the essence of the life of Israel. But the young men, and especially young Torah learners, men, so the hardship and the pain for Am Israel, especially the young, out of a terrorist attack, definitely takes a toll as well. But the great rabbi said the pasuk that we say to a navel, and it says, Ke'ish asher imo tenachamenu, like a man who the mother comforts him, Ken anochi anachemchem, I shall comfort you, ubirushalayim tenuhamu, and I will comfort you in the city of Yerushalayim. So it says as follows. For those that were here in yesterday's class, we mentioned how the month of Iyar stands for Abraham, Ishaq, Yaakov, and Rachel. And we spoke about Rachel, and everything is divine providence. This article was received earlier today, coming all the way from Israel. And Hacham Obadiah, alav shalom, quoted the same pasuk that we mentioned from the book of Irmiyah HaNavi, and it says, Kol barama nishma, a voice is heard in the heights. Nehi bechi tamrurim, lamentation and bitter weeping. Rachel mebakah al baneha, Rachel weeps, Rachel cries for her children. Me'ana le'inachem, she refuses to be comforted for her children. Ki enenu, because they are not. Borei Olam answers to Rachel, Min'i kolech mibechi, refrain your voice from weeping, ve'enayich midim'ah, and your eyes from tears. Ki yesh sachar lif'olatech, your work shall be rewarded. Beshavu me'eres oyev, and their children, meaning to say Am Yisrael, will come back from the land of enemy. And it says as follows. Why does the pasuk talks about two different times? One pasuk says, Beshabu me'eres oyev, you will return from the land of the enemy. Another pasuk says, Beshavu banim ligbulam, and your children will return to their borders. So how Rabbi Yosef explains as follows. There are two levels of returning to Eretz Israel. There are two levels. One level that already happened, and he explains this will be the places, especially in the Middle East, where Bnei Israel were persecuted, and there were many decrees and many attacks against Am Yisrael from Iraq, Syria, Egypt, and other Middle Eastern countries. Okay, so that is one way. Another case refers to the attacks inside the land of Israel. If it's attacking soldiers or if it's attacking citizens through the names of terrorism. Even, and this was written a few years back, but I believe that history is a bit different from a few days ago till today. He also speaks about the situation of Yemen. So this was written back almost 50 years ago. So we need to understand that the amount of Yehudim in Yemen then was well greater than today. Today, I think till last week or 2 weeks ago, they had maybe a minyan. Today I heard that many of these individuals left Yemen, they went to a third country, and apparently there is barely a handful of Yehudim, maybe 5, maybe. All that requires confirmation, but definitely many of them left in the last few weeks. And also in Yemen, Hacham Obadiah writes that they had information that many Yehudim, lo alenu velo alechem, were kidnapped and forced to convert to their religion. And that's what the pasuk says, Beshavu me'eres oyev, that we're going to be heading to Israel, running away from the countries where the Jewish people are persecuted, like it happened during the time of the Holocaust, etc. But the final complete redemption will be Beshavu banim ligbulam, or Beshavu me'eres oyev. It says that the true redemption is when Bnei Israel returns through a lifestyle of Torah and Mitzvot. And this is what the Gemara writes in Masechet Kiddushin as well. And with this, we are able to understand perhaps the opening statement that Hacham Obadiah Yosef said, that the death of Jewish young men is as the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. The Gemara is teaching us a very valuable lesson. The destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, to a certain extent, served as a way of salvation for Am Israel. How difficult this may sound, but that's exactly what's written in the book of Tehillim. The pasuk says, Mizmor le'asaf Elokim ba'u go'im benachalatecha, a song of Asaph. God, the Gentiles came to invade your holy abode, your holy place of residence. So the Gemara asks right away, Mizmor le'asaf, why are you saying a song? Kina le'asaf, it should be a prayer of lamentation. The Gemara's answer was that Hashem made a trading by protecting the Jewish people and collecting the invoice, open invoice, from a building known as the Bet HaMikdash. Of course, painful that the Bet HaMikdash has been destroyed, but would have been more painful, God forbid, if more people, Haz v'Shalom, need to be killed by the enemy because the Bet HaMikdash says, don't touch me, I'm nothing, I have no liability. But God made a package deal. So transfer the liability into the Bet HaMikdash, and by doing that, so the invoice to a certain extent was paid, those savings human's life. And this is the answer in the Gemara on that particular chapter. And it says, the Zohar Kadosh, that when young people, God forbid, pass away, it's not common, and it's not simple, and it's a wake-up call. And that's the reason why the Gemara compares to the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. It's definitely very painful in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hacham Batya writes, this concept of, God forbid, sometimes activating some apparent attribute of judgment that perhaps we have a lot of questions, but we don't have answers. But at the end of the halakha concludes, and it says, the Borei Olam himself will comfort Am Israel through Mashiach's arrival and the concept of Tehiyat HaMetim. So we devote the thoughts and the learning and the prayer of today for all the neshamot of the holy martyrs that perish in war, independence, all the wars that Israel endures, victims of terrorism. We are sure that their neshamot are in a very high place in Gan Eden, simply due to the fact that those who die defending the land and defending the Jewish nation, they have an automatic Gan Eden upgrade. And those who died by terrorism, they only died because they were Jewish people. And they are also, like many of those who perished during the Holocaust and the pogroms and the Cossacks and the Crusades and Tahbetat, the decree of 1648, 1649, etc. So I know that the topic is not a happy topic, it's not a pleasant topic, but it's important for us to remember and to express our gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Am Israel Hai. We were discussing earlier today as well that a very coincidental number that we come across this particular year, I think the number I mentioned before was 23,928, which to me is easier and faster to say 24,000, which to a certain extent reminds us of the very difficult period of the Omer, of the passing of the 24,000 students. I'm not trying to derive any comparison or analogy in this matter, but to me, the number ring a bell a bit and created some type of eye-opening. So Be'ezat Hashem, at this moment, we'll switch the topic and discuss the message of the 17th day of the Omer. To start the class in a positive way, the number 17, as we know, is Gematria Tov, good. And David HaMelech says in chapter 23, that we mentioned in the morning in the minyan, Ach Tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei hayai. Only goodness and kindness will chase me all the days of my life. So today's Sephirah is a very interesting Sephirah, because today is the day that third week of the Omer, the host is Yaakov Avinu, and today's Sephirah, it's called Tiferet Sheba Tiferet, harmony within harmony, or the way another source will call this particular day of the Omer. Let me just find the page of today, so I have it ready also. Nice exercise today. So it says compassion in compassion, according to the other source. So one book calls it harmony within harmony. Other book calls it compassion of compassion. So we'll try to have a combo package today. Still early, I believe, so we can go ahead for a few minutes. Now, one interesting fact about the life of Yaakov Avinu, it was that Yaakov Avinu also represented the midah of emet. This is what the pasuk says, Titen emet leYaakov. And where do we see this? We see this through the life of Yaakov Avinu. When he was with the shepherds, he talked to the shepherds. When he was with Lavan, he was with Lavan. When he met with Esav, he tuned himself to be like Esav. In other words, Yaakov Avinu, alav shalom, says the introduction to the Sefirah of today, was able to, not to internalize, but to blend in, so to speak, Now, we have three short messages concerning the concept of today. One of the things, it's called the beracha, or rather the mitzvah of tefillin. The pasuk in tefillin, the pasuk says, the Gemara rather, Mehillah, tefillin nikraim pe'er. Pe'er means beauty, is the root word of the word tiferet. So it says that when a person puts a tefillin on the head, the tefillin becomes like the crown of the person. Interesting enough, and that's one of the reasons why the tefillin has 4 perashiot, because the 4 perashiot of the tefillin are connected to the 4 letters of Hashem's name, Yod Ke, Vav Ke. So it says that a person, and especially to the men, when you put on tefillin, make sure that the tefillin placement is done properly. What does it mean? Make sure that the tefillin is right between the eyes. That's what the pasuk says. Ben einecha. Additionally, make sure that the tefillin doesn't sit on the forehead. Many times people put on the tefillin, and instead of finishing the tefillin by the hairline, but actually they put it not laying down. I'm going to try to mimic this. Let's make believe that this is the tefillin. Instead of putting it here, the tefillin suddenly falls into the forehead. And when it falls into the forehead, that's not the proper placement of the tefillin. That concept of the tefillin, it's pe'er. That's why in the day of Tisha B'Av, that our tradition is not to put on tefillin for the prayers of Shacharit, although we put it privately early morning, but we only put it officially in the afternoon. And in the tefillah of Tisha B'Av, we say, Lasum Efer Tahat Pe'er, that on the day of Tisha B'Av, we replace the beauty, the crown of the tefillin with the ashes of the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. So we understand that the pe'er is the crown. Now, the next concept, Poteya het yadecha. When we do the Ashrei prayer, our tradition is open your hands to receive Hashem's blessings. So it says that this concept also of Poteya het yadecha, to a certain extent, also represents beautifying HaKadosh Baruch Hu, acknowledging and recognizing that by the mere fact that we are understanding that our livelihood and our blessing is depending from the Almighty, and that's why we put the hands like a symbol of being able to receive the shefa, the beracha that comes to the person. Ben Adam lahavero, be respectful and be courteous to your friends, to salute them respectfully. Although today handshaking is a thing of the past, and not wearing a mask publicly Also, I'm not wearing a mask because nobody's in this room. And I'm giving the class now. So it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you and I. So therefore I don't wear a mask, but I have it right in front of me. Right in front of me. Don't leave home without it. It sounds like the American Express commercial. So it says, be acknowledgeable of the people by saluting them, by saying hello, etc. Now, Ben Adam le'atmo, it says that a person needs to be honest, but also needs to be tactful and diplomatic. What does that mean? That sometimes people, in the name of, I always say the truth, perhaps talk or say things that the delivery system is not proper, that the delivery system is not good. So therefore it says, you need to think, if you're going to say something, don't just blurt it out. Say it in a thankful way, in a way that will be more of an assistance, more of a remedy than a source of a headache by the way that was delivered. From the other source, he explains that tiferet actually means compassion. Now, compassion, it's limited. Mehila. Compassion is not limited. Sure, we display compassion. How much, how often, etc., that's a whole different story. But definitely, the sky is the limit concerning how compassionate the person delivers, etc. So it says that there are two levels of compassion. One is to your friends, to your families, to your relatives, to your wife, obviously, to your children, to your parents, and anyone that identifies with us through family tree or family relationship. But it says, interesting enough, that the true display of compassion is not limited only to those that are close to us, but especially to those that perhaps we don't have much interaction, or perhaps we don't see eye to eye in different scenarios or in different situations, which this reminds me of something that we have learned in the time of Purim, that we came across, I believe it's sourced from the Rambam, saying that when it comes, number one, better to do more matanot le'evyonim than mishloach manot, but also if it's other Rambam or another Gadol says that when it comes to give the mishloach manot, make sure to give it to the one, not only to your family and friends, etc., but to the one that you really don't see eye to eye, and perhaps there is a distance between both of you, between the person and that person, and this way, by doing this kindness or this gesture of compassion to a certain extent, or to a hesed to a certain extent, that melts the eyes and enables the heart to become warm to each other in a very spiritual and emotional way. Another concept talks about the pride that Hashem has for Am Israel. And we have discussed this more than once in the famous pasuk of the Navi that says, Israel asher becha et pa'ar. Imagine yourself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from his holy sight in Shamayim, is looking down to the world and scans and say, okay, let me see what my children are doing. And suddenly he logs into itorah.com, visits the website, and what does he see? He sees the shiur live. But God can see much more than we can see. Hashem can see every single person that is on the website now and listening to this class or listening to the other wonderful classes that they have. Some of them are live, some of them are delayed, some of them are in a different schedule. But bottom line, an example like this, or when God sees the people running to the shul early morning to come, or when they leave the office early in the afternoon to do mincha and arvit with the minyan, etc., plus everything else that goes throughout the day, from the Sefirah of today, it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes an unbelievable amount of pride on the actions of Am Israel. And everybody can have an excuse why not to do it. But yet, we make the effort, we tighten the belt, we adjust ourselves in order to be able to achieve this goal of Torah learning, fulfillment of the mitzvot, etc. Now, a next message, he says, it's the importance of a person recognizing the kindness of Hashem and the lack of judgment from Hashem. The kindness of Hashem is that a person has a lot of things, that a person is not definitely entitled and deserving, but yet Borei Olam, with his infinite patience and tolerance, allows the person to keep their wealth, to keep their health, to keep their family, despite the fact that we have a couple of spiritual hiccups. And it says that this is also part of the Hesed that Hashem does for the person, even though that a person perhaps may not be deserving of such a Hesed. That, it says, the Sfartem Lachem, also comes from the Sefirah of today, Tiferet, that Hashem aims to beautify the life of the person through marriage, children, livelihood, health, etc. One more concept, and this is going to be a tough one to digest, simply because it's not a new topic, but it's a whole different angle on this topic. So we already learned the importance of self-improvement. Now, how long does it take to self-improve? I think it takes time and effort. But listen to this. A person must aim for shelemut. Shelemut means completion. Yani, be all you can be. Don't settle. Keep climbing, as the song says. Keep climbing higher and higher and higher to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And how do a person achieves that? It says, first of all, you need to have midot tovot. Then, you need to increase ma'asim tovim and Torah learning. So when you supplement your life with the midot tovot, with mitzvot and Torah learning, so you have a full battery charge of kedusha that helps us move to the next level. But it says here that Rabbi Saadia HaGaon, every day he was able to climb a higher step in godliness. But parallel, Rabbi Saadia HaGaon lived in Egypt, I believe, close to 1,000 years ago. But close to that, what Rabbi Saadia HaGaon will do, not only celebrate the new height achieved today, but do teshuvah that this height was not achieved yesterday. This is shelemut. This is completion, perfection that a person wants to achieve. Now you may say, Rabbi, I am not Rabbi Saadia Gaon. I agree, you are not and I am not. Maybe somebody else could be, but I think that the message of the Sfartem Lachem protocol is that it's not only, oh, I did this today, I touched the heavens with my hands. But what about yesterday? What a powerful concept. And it says that through this, a person is developing a stronger connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore it says, always aim to have compassion of people and teach them Torah and influence the person to help others and teach others, because this is how Torah and the personal development of the person, it becomes a reality and a success. And therefore it says, Dober emet bilbabo. It says, a person that speaks the truth in their heart. What does it mean? That even though that a person may have not made a commitment verbally, but made a commitment in the heart, the person follows that particular commitment. Meaning to say, emet, the concept of truth. And always look and pursue the truth when it comes to, especially, honesty between people, or when it comes to mitzvot, or when it comes to ma'asim tovim. But here it says, afilu b'mile de alma lo yahazor bo. Avoid changing your mind even in regular matters. I know that some may ask, how come, what for, etc. But I think what he's trying to say is that emet, truth, must be our middle name. Besides the godly given name that we have, has to be emet. In other words, emet, the concept of truthfulness and honesty and transparency, is not copyright only by Yaakov Avinu. It's an IPO. Everybody has, like Coinbase is going to go soon, I was told earlier. Okay, so you're going to have an opportunity to climb on the spiritual ladder of emet, etc. And it says, the more blissful you are in life, the more connected you are in life to Hashem. So therefore it says, don't use the godly given gifts to be going to waste, in the sense of not giving enough charity, not praying properly. In other words, you have, Baruch Hashem, a beautiful business, an excellent company. So why are you escaping from the shul? Pray, normal prayer, and then go. God is delivering you the blessing anyways. What a powerful message it delivers today. And it says, reinforce your kindness to people. Also, not only do chesed money-wise, or with your mouth by talking, or by the ears by listening, but try to make chesed with the body. What does it mean? Help someone physically. Now, whenever the situation may come across the life of the person. So this is the conclusion of today's message for day 17. So, Be'ezat Hashem Iratzon, that to the words of Torah, Hashem elevates the neshamot of the martyrs, of victims of terror, as well as all the Israel fallen soldiers. Hashem inkom damam, may the Almighty avenge their blood, the way the Pasuk writes, and we should have Be'ezat Hashem Besurot Tovot, Yeshuot Benechamot. Have a lovely day. Be'ezat Hashem, we'll see tomorrow each other in the morning via iTorah.com. Have a good day.